before we do Q&A, we want to thank just 3 students, like who brought themselves up here, and then who let us learn from each other, and then they are so brave, and then they were willing to share. Thank you for their experiences with us. Okay, so any questions for Ariana here? She's all the way from New York, and she arrived here very late, and then she's here to talk to you.
Questions about anything. It can be about life, music, practicing.
In general.
I do have perfect pitch. And does that help?
I do. I'm not convinced that it's necessary. I think it's sort of an extra thing that I happen to have.
Sure.
I understand that. I think most people are just born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we discovered it because of our microwave. When I was a kid, apparently, I had just started playing, and the microwave beeped. The beep went off, and I said, "Oh, Mommy, that's a high 2." And she said, "What?" I said, "Mommy, that's a high 2 on the E string." And so my brain, I didn't even know the note name yet, but I just knew that this high 2 sound was coming from the microwave. It can be a curse, actually, because it's hard to transpose and it's hard to play scoratura. So when you play period instruments, they play at A415. So in a normal setting, this is our A, but that becomes the new open A. And so your brain processes it as A flat, and so your fingers subconsciously do weird stuff to play the right note that you see. It's helpful in certain ways in that it's great for studying intonation. When you play new music that has a lot of unexpected intervals where you have to jump to, you have a 9th here and an 11th there, and it's not diatonic. It's helpful in those ways. But I think, I know countless musicians that don't have it and they're just as brilliant, and I think relative pitch is maybe more important because you're understanding the relationship between things rather than something that's absolute.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, sir.
I got a question. So you mentioned learning violin, you need to play with the flexibility, you kind of creativity inside that. So my question is, Kylie is my wife, so I saw the students through the stage, and the early stage they struggle with playing the right note in the right tempo, in the right rhythm. So in that way, how can they develop this part of the thing you just mentioned? Then the second one is when they reach to a certain stage, they start to care about more the nuance, the expressive tone. How can they develop that if they really cannot understand what teachers try to teach them?
Yes, that's the whole journey, right? Those are $2 million questions. I think that if you can, from the beginning, I try to teach technique and artistry together. So that if I think about, when I'm learning to shift, as if I'm going back to my 7-year-old self, as I'm learning to shift, if I try to think about the journey and oh, I'm going up an elevator, or oh, I'm going to sing that note, or oh, I'm going to reach for my snack. If I think of it in a non-musical way, it opens my brain in a that doesn't just become the technique, okay, do it perfectly, but oh, I didn't quite reach my snack, or I dropped my snack, or I went to the wrong floor on the elevator. So if I can think of it in non-musical ways and you become creative. My mom used to play games with us all the time when I was little, she would say, okay, I want you to, we have this block that has all these pieces on it. We roll the block across the room, and whatever it lands on, she would play something that the block says, and then we have to play it back. So you're basically improvising, learning something by ear. So if you can use tools like that from the early stages, where you're thinking about, okay, as I shift to the F sharp, I'm going to reach my bird, or I'm going to be as I learn to vibrate, I want to have different types of vibrato. So today I'm going to be a robin, and tomorrow I'm going to be a sparrow, and the next day I'm going to be an ostrich. So you think about things kind of creatively outside the box. So if you can do that, and then honestly, moving is so important. I used to literally walk around the room while I practiced, used to feel maybe like, oh, I'm being lazy or I'm not paying attention to something. But I think feeling the rhythm in your body, feeling like, okay, my knees bend here, or like, I want to wait for a moment and I want to, boom, if I can feel that in the body, I think that helps a lot. If so much of our music is taken after dances, right, if I can imagine the dance, that's helpful. Singing is really useful. If you can sing rum, there's a better chance you can achieve that on the violin. And then the technical side, okay, so I figured out, because honestly, violin playing is so hard. You have so much to do, right? Like, just doing the act of making a beautiful sound, the act of playing in tune, the act of being able to know the fingerboard, that's its own craft, right? And once you get to the point where you feel like, okay, I have enough tools to explore, that's where the narcissism piece comes in, because it's a lot of trial and error. Okay, I want the sound to go ba-rum. So what does that mean for my bow? What does that mean? Am I going to scoop through the middle? Am I going to put pressure in the middle? If I find, like, if I start to, I'm sorry, I'm going to use your piece as an example because we're just on it. But if I want to feel, that feeling, I'm going to imagine my knees, I'm going to imagine that feeling. But how do I create that, right? So if I try, okay, I'm going to try it. Okay, it's too tight. Okay, it's too loose. Too loose. Too much bow. Then I basically am just trying like 8 times to find the thing that eventually gives me what I want. And with the help of your teacher, you have to talk about the technique, like, okay, at that moment, I'm scooping through and putting my index finger into the top of the bow, and then releasing with ring. So you talk about the technical side, but then how it makes the musical piece. And it's a lot of like improvising in the practice room, making your own etudes with the music you have, figuring out, okay, I'm gonna play. If you want to practice that stroke, practice with your scales. So you practice your scales while you practice the bow stroke, put it into spaces where it's not typically done. Then you have, that also adds to your flexibility when you can use that stroke. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's a lifelong journey. Every day I'm practicing, finding new things, trying to figure out, that wasn't in tune, how can I make that more convincing? I gotta get to a different part of the bow, my trill is too slow. It's always a journey. So, yes.
How do you practice?
Good question.
Usually in front of the television with, every day I start with, I play through all 36 scales. And all 36 3-octave scales, and then I usually choose a set of 3-octave arpeggios to play, just to get things moving. I also do I play my scales with weird bowings, so that I can get used to being in different parts of the bow. Often we're the worst at the very tip and at the very frog, if we have to play short stuff down here. So I'll play my scales like this. And I stay here. Keep going. Stay. So on and so forth. So I'm trying to think about how even my bow changes are, how beautiful the sound is, and then how to manage the bow well there, how to manage the bow well here.
Yeah, but like, not all of us are going to practice like 10 hours a day, right?
Oh, I never practice 10 hours.
Yeah, because all of us are like students and stuff, so what would be like the best way to practice?
Always start with scales and arpeggios. This routine takes me maybe 10 minutes. Everyone has at least 10 minutes to warm up. Never just dive in, because you need your body and your brain to be warmed up. So start with that. So it doesn't have to be all 36, but a significant set of scales and arpeggios. And then I would say the most important thing is almost never play left to right whole page. Think about what needs work. Think about how to isolate things. Think about efficiency. So if I play like, what's a good example? Maybe most people know Mozart G major concerto in here. Yum bum, this guy. That's that piece. If I start at the beginning, okay, it wasn't clean. I didn't have good coordination. If I just go back to the beginning and do it again, I'm not really isolating the thing. If I had too many in there. I make lots of baby etudes for certain passages that need extra attention. And always slowly. Especially if I have a fast piece, I don't play up to tempo until maybe 2 weeks before the concert. Everything is very slow and very intentional. So one of the pieces I'm playing for the recital, it's a new piece. It's actually never been performed on the West Coast. Has a lot of fiery stuff. And I was at like half tempo for months. And then you finally crank it up little by little. When you have an issue, like, okay, that thing's out of tune, don't go back to the beginning of the bar, just isolate that one thing. So if the challenge is like, if getting up there is hard, if I just go back and do it 1,000 times, that's not actually the problem, right? Isolate just that thing, make the etude go back and forth, and then you can find exactly what the thing is. So basically you have to break things down to be as isolated as you can when there's a technical thing. Then you start to sew it together, but only when it feels good. And that always, no matter how you're practicing, what you're practicing, you're thinking about the character. What do I want my sound to be? What do I want the vision or the character to be? So it doesn't have to be 10 hours. I never practice 10 hours. Maybe I play 10 hours in a day, but it's been with 4 hours of rehearsal and 3 hours of practice. And so don't think about, oh, if I play scales, that means I have to practice 10 hours. Every day scales, so no matter what. Because it helps the body and it helps the mind to just get into that mind frame. 10 minutes. Then go to your pieces, always intentional. Intentional practice is so hard because it's easy to get distracted, right? Think about what I'm gonna eat, what my friends are doing, did my phone just buzz, what video game I'm gonna play later. If you practice 1 hour really well, it's better than 4 hours badly. Always, always, always. So be focused and intentional about 1 hour of intentional practice is gold. Even now, because my life's really busy and I'm on the road a lot and I'm between full-time teaching at Cornell and being on tour a lot, sometimes I have 16 minutes and I'm like, oh, what a gift, I can learn this page. So you can, if you think of 16 minutes as a gift, if you think about 11 minutes as a gift, 27 minutes as a gift, if I have an hour, I'm like, oh my God, I've been gifted all this time. I wish I had the time that I did when I was your age. But to be as intentional as you can and be specific, then you start to sew stuff together. Even when you're in a 2-bar or 2-note phrase, what's the character that you want? What do you want to say?
Can you talk about your life being a professional musician? And then
Yeah.
would you recommend to be a professional musician?
It's a good question. It's an incredible life. It's a challenging life, but maybe the most rewarding. There's never a moment where you feel that you're working. You're working, but it comes from your craft, it comes from your heart, it comes from when you were 3. It takes a lot of work, as you know. Everyone in this room practices a lot, right? To play your mazurka is what, 4 pages, your Haydn is 4 pages. To play 4 pages of music takes months of practice, right? Months and lessons and the recordings. So it's not without sweat, blood, and tears. But it's, you know, when the world feels crazy, it feels like nothing makes sense, and people are dying, and people are starving, and people are being persecuted, and you know, there seems to be no answers to things and why people can be the way they are. What gets me up in the morning is being able to create and teach music, because it's the only thing that makes sense at that moment, right? Like, I open the news and I think, oh my gosh, the world is just crumbling, and then I play Bach. It's like, okay, I can put my foot in front of the other. So there's something incredibly special and healing and powerful about the craft. The logistics are a lot. I don't have a manager, and I think I like it that way, because I can sort of, I see everything myself, and I can kind of do things on my own. But it also means like lots of emails, text messages, programs, photo shoots, PR, bio writing, all those. There are like other life skills that come with it, right? You become sort of your own agent. So there's that element too. I get to travel the world for my work. You know, I can play a concerto in Thailand and a recital in Korea, and come to the Bay and give Masterclass and play a recital, and go to a tiny town in North Carolina and play on a mountaintop in Argentina. That wasn't for work, it was just for fun. But you know, it's a real gift. It's challenging. I think, you know, I feel very fortunate in that my career has sort of the best of both worlds. I have a full-time professorship where I can lean into the structure of a university, and I have incredible students that I work with, and a sort of, like a platform infrastructure. And then I have my touring career, which at Cornell, 70% of our responsibility is to research. So research is for us performing, touring, recording. So I have that flexibility to take Thursday to Sunday to come here. And I have the chance to perform and teach sort of in equal importance. And then, you know, you have the summers free I do a lot of touring and summer festivals during the summer. It's a lot of plane miles. I put too much jet fuel in the environment. I've flown now 1.5 million miles in my life. It's too much. But I feel grateful. It's, you know, it's many hours. I don't know of a career. I think we're the only ones that have to start when we're this big and can go until we die. Because athletes, professional athletes, they have to start when they're very young too, right? Like Steph Curry started when he started playing basketball and he was in diapers. But he's going to retire in a few years, right? Like you can't play basketball till you're 80, right? For us, we can play till we're 80. And we started when we were this old. And you need that, right? You can't decide to be a professional pianist when you're 18, unfortunately. Most other careers you can choose when you're 18, when you go to college, right? You choose, I want to go into computer science, I want to go into anthropology, I want to go into medicine. But for us, we have to start so young. And it carries all the way through, and it's a lifelong career. So we're very unique. We have to train like athletes, but then we're not as strong as they are, or as fast. But you have that sort of ingrained feeling that carries the craft in something beautiful for forever. And there's a way to do something else vocationally and have music still be an important part of your life. That you can go into computer engineering, but you play in the community orchestra and you teach lessons on the weekends and you have chamber music with your friends. So there are many possibilities to sort of careers in music. But my life is, I feel very fortunate for how things are. A lot of work in many ways, but very rewarding. Kylie, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's take one more.
How many
Say again.
How are you so good?
There you go. That's the right question.
That wasn't the first question. What was the first question? What was the first question?
How many countries have you been to?
How many countries have I been to? Oh gosh, I would have to actually count. I don't know, several dozen probably. I would have to think about it. But yeah, probably several dozen. How am I so good? I'm definitely not. But thank you. It's always a journey. It's always a journey. That every day you're trying new things. You're trying to discover new things. I'm never done practicing. I'm never like, oh good, I'm fix that, done forever. You're always discovering. I'm always thinking about all the things we talked about today. You guys were so generous and brave sharing your music and trying new things. Every day I'm trying new things. I'm thinking about intonation, about sound, about where my bow is, about am I in the right place? What's my character? What do I want to share with the audience? I think what's important is that when you think about character and you think about what's beyond the dots on the page, you have to give more than you think you need to. Because if I give 100%, the audience probably gets 50. So I have to give 200% for you guys to get 100%. So you always have to, and you'll find where the edge is. If you exaggerate too much and it goes overboard, you'll say, oh, that feels gross. And then you have to back it up a little bit. But always try to express what you want to the point where you can communicate something powerful to the people that are listening. Not in an artificial way, but in a way that is meaningful to you. So you always have to find the character you want. Because otherwise, if we play the notes on the page, even if we do it well and perfectly and we honor the dynamics and the articulation, it can become boring because it doesn't have our own stamp on it. It doesn't have a feeling. So you always think about what do I want to say and how do I communicate that out. It's the dream, at least. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you guys for a lovely class. Thank you for being here.